What's up, guys? James from Lucrative MMA. I'm back to drop some more knowledge on you. Today, we're going to be going through the upcoming UFC card, UFC Vegas 23. Kevin Holland is stepping in on short notice to take on Marvin Vettori. Kevin Holland's going to be looking to redeem himself as such after his poor showing against Derek Brunson last time out. That was only about 3-4 weeks ago, so it's definitely short notice for Kevin Holland. And I'll be interested to see how he approaches this one, right? Because he got dominated in the wrestling for 25 minutes and kind of made a mockery of himself because he wasn't able to stuff the takedowns. And all he really was known for in that fight was getting taken down and also talking, right? Just constantly talking to Khabib and to Dana White while losing. Dana White left the fight early before the fight had finished. He said he needs to get out of here. He wasn't impressed with Kevin. He actually came out and said that Kevin Holland, he thought Kevin Holland had a mental breakdown or something. So, you know, it wasn't a very good look for Kevin Holland. And he actually did say after that he thought he let his coaches down and he let his team down and stuff. So I'm interested to see how that fight goes. And I will talk about that fight because today I'm going to be talking about the full main card of UFC Vegas 23. We've got about 6 fights on the main card. So I'll go through all 6 fights from a betting perspective because at the end of the day, I am a sports better and this is a betting show. So I'll obviously be talking about the stylistic matchups and at the end of the day give you guys my pure prediction who I think is going to win. But it's going to be from a betting angle, right? I'm going to be looking at each fight from a betting lens and I will be talking about if I see any odds that I may jump on. I will be talking about where I see the value, right? So anyone who's in the chat, hit me up, say what's up and we'll get straight into it. The first fight on the card. And this one's going to be a bit of a fun one to talk about. And I'll bring it up for you here. Shout out to Oz Tyler saying, my guy, Oz Tyler there. James Bet. Yeah, everyone hit that like button. I always forget to say that. I think I'm just going to get something created where at the end of the video, it's like an outro that says, hit the like button, subscribe, because I never remember that. So thanks for saying that, James. All right, here we go. Mike Perry versus Daniel Rodriguez, right? So, like every Mike Perry fight, there's something to talk about other than what's going to happen in the octagon, right? Last time he came against Tim Means, the talking point there was Perry came in overweight, quite a bit overweight. He came in, I think it was about 5 or 6 pounds, or even possibly a little bit more, over the welterweight limit there, over the 170-pound limit. So, you know, that was the talking point there. How is Mike going to look? Has he been training properly? Did he just not cut weight because he couldn't be bothered? Or did he not actually do the work to get down to the weight that he needed to be at so he could cut weight to make the weight, right? That was a talking point in that fight. And the fight before that, he fought Mickey Gall. And the talking point in that fight was obviously he didn't have a corner man. All he had in his corner was his girlfriend, Vittori Gonzalez, right? So that was the big talking point. How is Mike going to do you know, with his girlfriend only in his corner? And now the talking point for this fight, I guess, is Mike past it? You know, we saw Mike go half viral on MMA Twitter recently because Mike Perry, he recorded himself with like all blood over his leg. And then there was like a window that had been smashed next to him. He posted on Instagram he had broken in or something like that. And I think this is the first time he's fought since he went viral for another reason, which was he had a fight with that like older gentleman. He dropped him. I believe he punched this old guy in a club. It was a really weird situation. And I don't think he's fought since then. I don't think that was before the Means fight. So, you know, there's more talking points, which is nothing to do with Octagon, right? And I'm not here to talk about them, right? I've highlighted them, but at the end of the day, it's hard to factor that sort of stuff in. It's very hard as a sports bettor to factor that outside of the octagon stuff in because you could have said when he fought Mickey Gall that he was going to look terrible because he had his girlfriend in his corner, right? But, I mean, he dominated that fight, 30-27. Now, Mickey Gall's not really UFC level, in my opinion. But, you know, you could have said when he fought Tim Means that, oh, he's missed weight. Is he going to look bad? And to be honest, I did think he kind of looked bad. I didn't think he actually gassed out there. But my point is that it's very hard to factor these outside of the octagon things in. But with someone like Mike Perry, you maybe do have to factor them in a little bit more than other fighters, because it seems like it happens with Mike Perry every single fight. So there is a sort of pattern that maybe he's, distracted from what he needs to be doing. And he's not going to be good being distracted against someone like Daniel Rodriguez, because Daniel Rodriguez is not going to be distracted. Daniel Rodriguez knows Mike Perry's a big name, and he's going to be coming in here and kind of trying to make a statement off Mike Perry's name, right? I know Daniel Rodriguez has a couple of good wins on his record. He obviously knocked out Dwight Grant. He stopped Tim Means. But if he beats Mike Perry, Mike Perry's kind of a signature name in the UFC, in my opinion. He's known by some quote unquote casuals, or it's not only the hardcore people in MMA that know Mike Perry, right? Whereas anyone else who Daniel Rodriguez has fought, only really the hardcore know it. The hardcore element knows him. So I believe Daniel Rodriguez is going to be really focused here. And the question is Mike Perry? I don't know. He looks in good shape from what I can see on Instagram and stuff like that. But yeah, it's hard to factor that stuff in, so I don't really do it. But at the same time, do you really want to be putting your money behind Mike Perry when you really don't know what's going on in his mind? And, we have seen him maybe underperform because of these outside the octagon things before, possibly. And I'm really talking about Tim Means. So, just a stylistic matchup of this fight. It's kind of similar in the fact that I don't really think either of these fighters outmatch each other by a huge margin in any area of the fight, right? So I will give Daniel Rodriguez a decent speed advantage. But other than that, it's pretty similar in a lot of areas of the fight. So, for example, I both believe that defensive grappling is pretty solid. It's not easy to take Mike Perry down. It's not easy to take Daniel Rodriguez down. I think Daniel Rodriguez has like a 90% takedown defense. We did see Tim Means take him down pretty early on in the fight, but I've seen him stuff multiple takedowns, Daniel Rodriguez. Same thing with Mike Perry, right? He's not easy to grind out on the floor. Mickey Gall was attempting quite a few takedowns in that fight, couldn't really do much. And in fact, it was Mike Perry, the one who got the takedowns in that fight. So, the defensive grappling is pretty similar. The offensive grappling, we don't really see it from Daniel Rodriguez. We have seen it from Mike Perry quite often in his UFC run. Obviously, he's known as a boxer, right? He's known as a striker, and that's what he is. But just going through tape on this fight, watching a couple of his previous fights, he uses takedowns a lot more than kind of I thought in my mind, because when you think of Mike Perry, you think of this come forward pressure boxer, which he is, right? But he gets takedowns quite often. So he took down Mickey Gall 2 or 3 times. He took down Tim Means once, and I believe he attempted more than one takedown. He took Tim Means back in that first round. He sinked in a choke in that first round. It wasn't under the chin. Tim Means was able to get out of it. He turned into Mike Perry, and he was able to get dominant position and stand up. But Mike Perry did out-grapple Mickey Gall in that fight. Mickey Gall done a couple of good sweeps on Mike Perry, used the guillotine to defend takedowns and sweep him. But Mike Perry won the grappling against a decent grappler in Mickey Gall. So, if you go back through and look at Mike Perry's just stats and just his fights, he does actually get a couple of takedowns. So I'll be interested to see if he comes out with a takedown game plan against Daniel Rodriguez. But I will say that when he did do that last time against Tim Means in his last fight, it did look like he was kind of gassed out, and he didn't seem to have too much gas for the rest of that fight after the first 3-4 minutes, which is when he attempted the takedown and which is when he went for the submission. So is that because he wrestled, he kind of gassed out, or is it because he came in 5 to 6 pounds overweight and he just didn't do much training for that camp? We'll never know, right? But I will be interested to see if he does go for the takedowns here. If he does, I don't think he's going to have too much success. Now, Mike Perry's a very strong man. He might be able to get Daniel Rodriguez to the ground, but I don't think he's going to have much success on the ground. I don't think Mike Perry has ever got a submission in his career. I'll bring up his record now, but he's definitely not got a submission in the UFC. He's mostly a decision fighter these days, although he definitely does have power. Don't let his record fool you. He does have power, and he's known for a couple of them brutal knockouts, against Jake Ellenberger. He got a solid one. And, we know he has power. Danny Roberts, he hurt him. So this is a close fight, basically, at the end of the day, in my opinion. I got to lean Daniel Rodriguez a little bit, just because I do think he's going to have the speed advantage. And in a boxing matchup, which I do believe it will be primarily, I think Daniel Rodriguez probably going to be able to land a bit more than Mike Perry and possibly win the volume game. But I do not favor anyone super highly. As I say, I do give Mike Perry a slight power advantage, and we have seen Daniel Rodriguez hurt before, namely against Dwight Grant. I do think Daniel Rodriguez got a good chin. You know, he showed it off against Gabe Green. He showed it off kind of against Tim Means. And he obviously showed it off against Dwight Grant, even though he got hit. He didn't get stopped, and he was able to actually weather the storm and stop Dwight Grant. So, you know, I do give Daniel Rodriguez quite some credence to his chin, but he can be hurt. And Mike Perry, I know his record doesn't say it, and a lot of people will probably like to come out and say that Mike Perry isn't a power puncher. He doesn't have much power. It's kind of a myth. I don't agree with that. I do think he has a lot of power, and he definitely can knock people out. I mean, he hurt Mickey Gall badly. He didn't do much to Tim Means. Vicente Luque was landing on him, but we know Luque's got a great chin. You know, he's got power. He's definitely got power. He did crack Tim Means once in that fight, and Tim Means looked not wobbly, but he definitely felt it. So, you know, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Mike Perry catches Daniel Rodriguez something huge. You know, he's definitely dangerous for that. And one thing I did want to bring up, and this is the reason I brought up his record here. Obviously, I did want to mention that he's never got a submission in his career, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. Yeah, he never got a submission in his career. But what I wanted to bring up was the fact that Mike Perry has a lot more experience than Daniel Rodriguez. So if you can see here, this is actually going to be Mike Perry's 10th UFC fight. And as opposed to Daniel Rodriguez, this is going to be Daniel Rodriguez's 5th UFC fight, right? So that's double the amount of experience for Mike Perry. And at this point in his career, Mike Perry's, he's a UFC veteran. I mean, he's going to have 10 UFC fights in about 2 days. So, you know, we can call him a UFC veteran, which is kind of funny to say because, I don't know, it just seems like he's still kind of a young dude. I don't know why I think that. Maybe because he's kind of childish. He's always getting into like outside of the octagon stuff. He's a little bit flamboyant. He doesn't seem the most smart, intellectual dude outside of the octagon. Just in a way he conducts himself, you know, no disrespect to Mike Perry. So maybe that's why I'm thinking he's kind of a young dude. He's not really a UFC veteran, but we have to give him credit where credit's due. He's been in the UFC for a long time, for about 5 years now. And, you know, he's won more than he's lost, just about, but he has done that. So maybe the experience will be some, you know, it definitely will be to his advantage here, but it's not like D-Rod's having his 2nd or 3rd fight. This will be his 5th fight in the UFC. So, you know, I do favor D-Rod, and where the current line is at, I think it's about right. So I'll bring bestfightodds.com up here and I'll zoom in so you can see it. You know, we're getting Mike Perry at about a plus 150, plus 155, best price plus 160 at Sportbet. And Daniel Rodriguez is coming at about a minus 180, minus 185. Look, I think that line's it's probably about accurate. They're giving Mike Perry about a 40% chance of winning this fight. I don't necessarily disagree with that. Obviously, Daniel Rodriguez giving him about 63, 64% chance of winning that fight. I mean, yeah. And, you know, it does seem that it's possible that Mike Perry is kind of, I don't want to say coming towards the end of his career, but coming towards the end of his career at that level. But D-Rod isn't at the level that Mike Perry's been in with. You know, Mike Perry's been in with Jeff Neal, although it didn't last long. He has been in there. He's been in with Luque, you know, a split decision he went to with Luque. Obviously, that was an absolute war. And a lot of people are saying that, like, Mike Perry's changed since that fight. Possibly. I mean, he could have peaked at that fight, you know, because that definitely was a good look for him going to split decision with Vicente Luque. But he's been in there with Tim Means. I know D-Rod has been in there too, but he's also been in there with, who's he been in there with? Donald Cerrone, Paul Felder. Did he fight Cerrone? That's crazy. It says he fought Cerrone here, but I watched so many fights that they all blend into one. Oh, yeah, he lost the armbar. I remember that the two coaches were head-to-head, yeah. Yeah. But look, he's been in there with some top guys, man. Cowboy Oliveira, Paul Felder, Max Griffin, Ponzinibbio. I mean, the level of competition that Perry's been in there with is, you know, it's drastically different. It's way higher than Daniel Rodriguez. And a lot of times when we get a close fight like this, because I do think it's a fairly close fight, as I said, the line is pretty accurate. A lot of times when there's a close fight, I do like to look at the level of competition and I rate that pretty highly if I think the fight is fairly close, right? So First of all, I'll go on stylistic matchups. How both fighters' styles compare with each other and how them styles are going to clash in the octagon. But then I start to look at other things, height, reach. Obviously, I look at everything as one, but just giving the most importance probably to the stylistic matchup. And then after that, I do give a lot of importance to the level of competition. It's probably the second thing I give. After the stylistic matchup of the fighters, I do give the most credence to probably the level of competition. But with all that being said, I do think Perry's probably already peaked in his career. I don't think we're going to see a better Perry than we saw against Paul Felder, Vicente Luque, that 2018 to 2019 era. I do think that was his best era. He's 29 years old now. Maybe he peaked at about 27. So, yeah. So final prediction, guys, I'm going to go with Daniel Rodriguez to outpoint Mike Perry and get a pretty clear 29-28, 30-27 decision. And we will move on to the next fight. I'll just catch up with the chat right now. Anaconda, what's up, bro? Thanks for being here. Anaconda saying, I can't bet on Perry in case he kicks a glass door again. I mean, there's no glass doors in the octagon, but I mean, if you're saying before the fight, yeah, you never know. Maybe wait to weigh-ins and just hope he doesn't teep kick a glass door on his way out of the weigh-ins, Danny, what's up, Danny Lag, saying, the question is Mike Perry taking it seriously? Yeah, and answer is yes, he's taking the camp at MMA Masters. He definitely looks good on Instagram and what I've seen him. But it's just, yeah, I mean, it's just hard to cap them sort of things, right? So he's taking a fight at MMA Masters. You got to give credence to that. He looks in good shape in the octagon, on Instagram and stuff. You got to give credence to that. But just at this point in his life, is that outside of the cage stuff? He's just had a kid recently, his wife did. Is that stuff kind of is he a little bit distracted? But I guess going to MMA Masters, you can say that he's not. It's just Mike Perry, man. It's hard to get behind Mike Perry, for me anyway. Brandon McDonald, thanks for being here. Brandon saying, curious to see how he looks on a scale. He said he's dieting the weight cut more seriously. Yeah, it'll be good to see him on a scale. Perry's one of them ones where but Perry always looks in good shape, right? I've never really seen Perry come out of shape, so kind of hard to judge him on the scale, but maybe we can at least see if he makes weight this time. MMA Kappa, what's up? He's saying Perry has been blazing a lot in his snaps and shit. He's been smoking weed. Seems like he's not as switched on as he should be. Looking to see D-Rod flex on him with his high volume and good grappling defense. Yeah, so, he's at MMA Masters, but he's smoking weed. But, a lot of these guys smoke weed, man. That's the thing. It's hard to cap because we don't know what he's been doing the past 10 years of his career, right? So it's hard to know if him smoking on his Snapchat is different than he's been doing for the last 10 years. Has he been smoking during camp in the last 10 years? I mean, possibly, so it's kind of hard to know whether that's even a bad thing. I mean, Nate Diaz, he probably smokes all the way up until fight time, almost just so he doesn't pop with USADA. So, yeah, I mean, it just affects everyone differently in that regards. Close fight. I favor Perry on power and durability. Fair enough. Plus 160. Not a bad price. Z's MMA is saying Perry hasn't looked the same since the Luque fight. James Beck is saying the same thing. Luque took his soul. Brandon saying Luque took his nose. What about the over? What's the price on the over? I need to do this quickly and get on to the next fight, which I will do. So, yeah, over 2.5 rounds. I mean, look, I'm predicting Daniel Rodriguez to win via decision, right? So I'm saying that the over will hit. I mean, yeah, it's not bad because, as I said, the experience advantage is definitely there for Daniel Rodriguez. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that he can nullify the volume with maybe some harder shots and maybe some grappling if he's able to do that. Fight goes to decision, even money there. I don't hate it. But, I mean, both of them are really tough, right? They are very, very tough. But I do think that they're going to be clashing often. So it'll probably be quite sweaty, especially if you're playing over 2.5, which is obviously what it's set at here. So, but Perry wins by decision here, plus 500. I don't hate that, man. I mean, that's a little bit crazy. When I went live for my Bellator 255 predictions, I was actually looking through the Jackson and Neiman Gracie odds. And I came on here and I was extremely surprised to see Neiman Gracie via decision at plus 600. And I'm kind of in the same boat here. Just seeing Perry by decision at plus 500, I'm kind of surprised about that, right? I'm kind of surprised at seeing Perry at plus 500 for a decision, but only plus 275 for inside the distance. I mean, you know, D-Rod's pretty tough, man. I did mention that we see him get hurt against Dwight Grant, but Perry, he's kind of a decision fighter, guys. You know, I know he's got solid power, but Perry by decision at plus 500, I mean, I might have to just jump into it again. It might be the Neiman Gracie, Jason Jackson thing, you know, and that Neiman Gracie fight, it didn't go our way, but maybe this one will go our way, you know, maybe the pendulum will swing. Maybe the variance will come on our side this time. Maybe it'll be a split decision again, and maybe I'll cash that plus 500. So look, don't be surprised to see me possibly cash or possibly play Perry by decision at that price, because I think that price is a little bit strange. But at the end of the day, my pure prediction, D-Rod to win via decision. So I don't hate that over, but I don't think I'll be playing that over at that price. Here we go. The next fight is, and Stan just saying, Perry took it, Luque took his soul. Boys saying he didn't. Perry won the fight. All right. Anyway, Nina Ansaroff versus Mackenzie Dern. This is a fun fight, man. Listen, I'm one of the people who actually like Mackenzie Dern, right? And I'm not talking about how she looks. I don't mind that either, but I'm talking about her skill set, right? Because I feel like Mackenzie Dern is hated on Twitter, right? I feel like she's probably one of the ones similar to Alexander Hernandez, Joe Rogan, you know, these people. I feel like she's one of the ones that MMA Twitter just doesn't like, right? And I understand why, right? Because she's pretty one-dimensional. I actually did a tweet recently saying that her takedown defense is 5%, which it is. Her takedown accuracy, is 5%, which is a pretty crazy stat, right? For a jiu-jitsu fighter to have a 5% takedown accuracy, but only have one loss. You know, she's won like 4 in the UFC. You're like, how is she winning this fight? How is she winning these fights? Well, I don't know, man. Girls are going to the ground with her kind of stupidly. We saw what Hannah Cyphers did. There was another fighter who jumped into her guard. The name is escaping me right now. But she showed a decent game against Virna Jandiroba last time out. I know a lot of people were on Virna there. The fight played out basically on the feet, and Mackenzie Dern won that fight at the end of the day. You know, she hurt Janda's nose badly. I think she may have broke her nose in that fight. And yeah, I don't hate Mackenzie's game as much as some people do. I do feel like her striking is still improving. We did see her drop Amanda Bobby Cooper with a huge overhand, I think it was, before she submitted her. And that's what she does, right? She hasn't got much technique in her striking. She throws huge overhands, but I do think she's getting better. Fight to fight, I think she's getting better. I think in that Virna Jandiroba fight, her striking had improved there from the previous fights. I think it's safe to say that. But at the end of the day, she's not a striker, right? And I feel like other than striking, she needs to be improving her wrestling. She should be hitting up Tatiana Suarez in the DMs and becoming best friends with her. You know, she needs to befriend Ben Askren. I mean, she needs to work on her wrestling, because if this girl can get you on the ground, she is damn high level on the ground. She's a high level jiu-jitsu fighter, you know. I really enjoy watching BJJ in MMA, and her BJJ is beautiful. It really is, you know. If she gets Nina on the ground, it could be trouble for Nina. The thing about Nina is she's got solid takedown defense, you know, even against Tatiana Suarez, who's definitely the best women's wrestler in the UFC right now, probably the best women's wrestler in the UFC that possibly we've ever seen, right? And Nina was defending her takedowns as that fight wore on. She did get taken down a couple of times, but she was consistently making Tatiana work. So I do rate Nina's takedown defense. The thing is, though, is that Tatiana's not, you know, a high-level jiu-jitsu fighter. So I do believe if Mackenzie Dern is able to get in the same position Suarez is, it could be over, or Mackenzie Dern could just ride her out, because Mackenzie Dern will take the back like that. She'll be able to control Nina a lot more if she does have at least 5 to 10 seconds of top control. And I said that in the Neiman Gracie versus Jason Jackson fight. I say this a lot when you have a jiu-jitsu fighter. It's not enough for the jiu-jitsu fighter just to get takedowns. you need a jiu-jitsu fighter to get the takedown, but also get 5 seconds of top control, and then they can start to work their game. Because the thing is, if Mackenzie Dern gets the takedown on Nina Ansaroff can out-scramble and jump, and get to her feet. But if Mackenzie Dern is able to lay on her for at least 5 seconds or something, and Nina's not able to get instantly back to her feet, then Mackenzie Dern could ride out the rest of that round in top, And if she's going to be on Nina for an extended period of time, you have to think that she's going to get a submission because she's very high level. She'll go for all submissions. She'll go for leg locks. She'll go for arm bars. And I did like what she tried against Amanda Ribas when she was getting pieced up and she wasn't able to get the takedowns. She jumped guard a couple of times, which was good to see because, it just showed a decent fight IQ that at least she was trying to get the fight to the ground by some other means. Obviously, it wasn't good to see because she couldn't get the fight to the ground, so that's not a good look. But some fighters will just not even attempt to roll for leg locks or pull guard, or at least she's got the wherewithal to say, okay, I can't get the fight to the ground. My wrestling's not good. I'm going to at least try this. So that is something to look forward to. If you're betting Mackenzie Dern, her fight IQ isn't the worst in that regard. But Nina Ansaroff, she's coming back from quite a long layoff. I'll bring up her record here and we'll see how long she's been off. I think it's coming up to, it's 2 or 3 years now. So it's a long time. The reason is one of the reasons is because she obviously had a baby with Amanda Nunes. So this is, for those of you who don't know, this is Amanda Nunes' wife. They recently had a child. And, a lot of people, there's a narrative out there. And I'm curious to hear what you guys think in the chat. There's a narrative that when fighters come back from their, when women fighters come back from having a baby, they don't look the same. I don't really remember too many who have done that. One I do remember was... it was Mackenzie Dern, yeah. And someone hit me up in my DM. Shout out to whoever that was. I can't remember your name. I'm sorry. And said that when Mackenzie Dern came back from a baby, she fought Amanda Ribas and she didn't look good in that fight. But I feel like that was probably a stylistic nightmare for her, just in regards that Amanda Ribas got good takedown defense. She's also good on the ground, so she could nullify Dern enough at least to stand back up, and she's got good fight IQ, and she's just a better striker. So that was kind of a stylistic nightmare. I don't want to chalk that down to her being, compromised from the baby. But again, I don't really have a huge reference experience to go on, so I'm not 100% sure. Nina's Nina's coming back from having a baby, and I don't take too much into that. At the end of the day, as I said, we can't really cap that much, right? So what we have to do is just go on a stylistic matchup of the fight. And in the stylistic matchups of this fight, I think Nina's got Mackenzie covered in multiple realms. So shout out to Quinn. My guy Quinn was banging on all week, or the last 2-3 weeks, about he's got a max bet on Nina Ansaroff, right? And I looked into it. This was one of the first fights I looked into on the card. In some part, I did actually have this written down to look into because I did like the look of the line. It's an even money line. I always like to see if I can get any value on them even money lines. But yeah, one of the reasons I looked into this early was because Quinn basically kept saying that, listen, Nina's going to win this fight. I've got a max bet on her. So when I looked into it, I have to agree with a lot of Quinn's points. And if any of you don't follow Quinn on Twitter, follow him. And what I was going to say was check out his YouTube channel because he's got a breakdown of this fight as well. It's about 10 minutes long and he goes into why he's made a max play on Nina Ansaroff. And look, I agree with a lot of his points. Nina Ansaroff's got good takedown defense. She makes girls work. She doesn't just accept bottom position. She never accepts bottom position. Her cardio is good. She will keep coming. I haven't really ever seen her slow down in a fight, not the ones I watched anyway. And she's obviously training with Amanda Nunes. That's invaluable. A lot of these Dagestani guys, I'm going off a little bit of a tangent, but the reason they're so good is because their peers are so good, right? Iron sharpens iron. It's a real thing, and if she's training with Amanda Nunes, which obviously she has been, and very solid fighters in the camp that she trains at, ATT, she's obviously going to be well prepared for this matchup, right? And Mackenzie Dern is obviously going to try and get the fight to the ground, but she's never been able to show the takedown offense to get the fight to the ground before. So why is she going to be able to show it this time? To be honest, guys, I don't think she is. I feel like Nina is a level above on the feet, and it's not a hot take there. Most girls are better than Mackenzie Dern on the feet. I do think Mackenzie's improving, as I said, but I don't think she'll probably never improve to the level of Nina. And I don't think Nina's some amazing striker, but I do feel like Nina's a solid striker, okay? And she's definitely better than Mackenzie Dern. And to be honest, Mackenzie Dern, if she fights for the next 10 years, she'll never get to the level of Nina Ansaroff. It just doesn't work like that, you know? Look, I don't want to say that, but yeah, she's a level above on the feet, guys. And if she keeps this fight on the feet, she's going to win the fight. I think she's going to win the fight. I'm going with Nina Ansaroff here to win a decision, and I think it's going to be pretty clear, man. I feel like Mackenzie Dern will have her moments, you know, she will land a couple of overhands, land a couple of bombs, but she's not going to put Nina away on the feet, and Nina's not going to slow down. So how is Mackenzie Dern going to get the fight to the ground? Look, she's going to roll for leg locks. Maybe she'll catch one. She does a lot of dodgy things in the past, but Nina, I don't know. I feel like she's smarter than some other fighters that have fought Dern. I don't think she's going to jump into her guard. I don't think she's going to have a point to prove. She's coming back off a 2-3 year layoff. She's just going to want to get in the win column. Amanda Nunes is champion. It takes smarts to become champion. Amanda Nunes kind of leveled up at a game in the last 5-6 years. She was kind of known for being taken down and being on bottom a lot. So she's able to stop the takedowns now, Amanda Nunes, and she will definitely be given Nina a good game plan to go in there, and she's from ATT, so she'll have a good game plan as well. I did just want to check how long Nina has had off. So she last fought in June of 2019. So we're talking 2 years, right? Just under 2 years. So it's not as much as I thought. But look at the level of competition, guys. It's drastically in the favor of Nina here. Nina has fought girls like Angela Hill. I mean, if you just go her last 4 fights, Angela Hill, Randa Marcos, okay, Claudia Gadea and Tatiana Suarez. I mean, the level of competition there compared to Mackenzie Dern, it's laughable. You know, Mackenzie Dern hasn't fought anyone on the level of them fighters. So I'm going with Nina Ansaroff here. I'm going with her via decision, of course. And yeah, I feel like she's got all the tools to win, man. The only thing that was keeping me off going a little bit heavier, I probably will play her. The only thing keeping me off going like a max bet like Clinton is probably the layoff. And I do like Mackenzie Dern to make improvements fight to fight. I believe she's shown us that in most of her fights, apart from the takedowns, which is what she's going to need. But I do like Mackenzie Dern's activity. She fights regularly. Even though she had a baby, she come back and she's fought a couple of times since then. That was like a couple of years ago. So, you know, that's probably what's keeping me off a little bit, the layoff and Mackenzie Dern's activity. But I'm probably going to be playing Mackenzie Dern here, guys. I have to be completely honest with you. Final prediction, Nina Ansaroff to win via decision. And I'll just catch up with the chat real quickly here. The chat is popping today, guys. Thanks for being in here, man. I appreciate it. It'd be good to get like a specific time. I do this every week and then everyone can just jump in at the same time. Oz Tyler's saying it's MMA Twitter's main event. For sure. Danny Lags has 3 units on Nina at plus 115. Good line, man. And he's got 1.5 units on Fight Goes the Distance at minus 155. Good line as well. Damn. They're really good lines, bro. I like them bets. Danny's saying this is the Dern fade, people. I know, but people have been saying that for a long time, and she always gets the win apart from the Rebus fight, right? But I mean, I'm pretty sure you might have been on Werner in the last fight as well. Was you on Werner against Dean? I'm sure you thought that was the fade there, but I didn't agree with you in the Werner fight. I thought that would be close. I couldn't really decide, but I do agree with you here. So I really do think this is the Dern fade. I think this is a great stylistic matchup for Nina Ansaroff, and I'd probably go in very heavy like Quinn if she hadn't been off. But just looking at that, it's not even 2 year layoff, so I feel like I may go slightly heavier than I already am planning to. Club and sub consensus play. I think so. Them boys don't like Dern. Brandon's got Ansaroff here. Dern's takedown defense and Ansaroff takedown defense seem like, takedown accuracy and Ansaroff's takedown defense seem like simple math. It seems easy, right? It seems too easy, maybe. Dern striking is improving. Yeah, definitely improving. James Beck is saying Gianna Roba isn't a striker. That's true. Oz Tyler saying this is going to be a greasy split. You reckon? Possibly. I just don't really see how Dern wins too many minutes, man, because I don't think she's going to win virtually any minutes on the feet. But I do think she's improved her striking, so it will be interesting to see where it levels up against someone like Nina. Yeah, hopefully Chris Lee's never there again, man, let alone this fight. Yeah, so Danny's saying he's got Nina over 2.5 and Nina decision. Yeah, that's probably the way to play it. Just hammer it, right? Danny had 1.5 units on Werner at plus 184. Werner didn't use the glare and wrestling path often enough, in my opinion. Yeah, maybe she respected Dern off her back a little bit. You know, she seemed to be very dangerous on there. From there, but Werner's obviously good on the ground, but there is levels to this, and Dern's definitely higher level on the ground, in my opinion. But yeah, it seems too good to be true. It does, man. But look, 1.5 unit from Danny Lags at 184. It's not the worst, man. I mean, plus 184, it's a good price, right? So, and it was a close fight. I mean, a lot of people saying Werner won that fight. I don't agree. I think Mackenzie won, but at plus 184, yeah, not bad. Yeah, my decision is I think Nina Radcliffe going to win this one. I really do. Okay, so the next fight we got is Sam Alvey versus Julian Marquez. Now, it's a good fight, man. I don't have too much to say about this, man. I mean, Sam Alvey's going to back up against the cage. Marquez is going to be walking him down, throwing shots. Sam Alvey's going to catch him with hooks. Sam Alvey's going to catch Julian with the same hook like 20 times in the fight, and Julian just won't cop onto it, right? That's what seems to happen in Sam Alvey's fights all the time, right? But I give Sam Alvey some credit. He's a veteran of the game. And he's very sneaky with them hooks, right? He is sneaky with his boxing. He has that nice little screw shot uppercut, shovel uppercut. But he's getting on now, man. He's 34 years of age. He's going to be 35 this month. And look at his record there. You know, he's drawn his last fight against Da Eun Young or whatever his name is. And the 4 fights before that, he lost, you know. So, I mean, it's very hard for me to be picking Sam Alvey here, guys. I can't do it. I can't pick Smiling Sam. I'm sorry. I can't do it. Julian Marquez got a decent win out against Maki Pitolo in his last fight. Was getting largely dominated in that fight. He fought Maki Pitolo and Nurmagomedov in that fight. And, you know, he was getting taken down with kind of ease, to be honest. But he didn't rest on his back. You know, he was always working to get up. Maki was looking good, and then he pulls it out of the bag. You know, final couple minutes of the fight, he gets that submission. I believe it was a Darce choke or some front headlock series. You know, and he gets the win there. Julian Marquez is a very, very exciting fighter. All of his fights are exciting, right? Most of his fights are wars. You know, he's a very exciting fighter, man. I mean, he fought Phil Rowe. He got that highlight knockout on Dana White's Contender Series, I believe it was. Phil Rowe, he weathered the storm in the first round, and he was able to knock out Phil Rowe with that head kick in the second round. He fought Darren Stewart in one of the best fights I've seen in a long time. If any of you haven't done tape on this fight, I'd suggest starting with Julian Marquez versus Darren Stewart just for entertainment value. It was a very good back and forth fight. And he managed to choke out Darren Stewart in the second round. Darren Stewart kind of faded in that fight. And obviously his last fight, Maki Pitolo, there was a lot of drama in there. He got wrestled to fuck and then he subbed him, as I said. So, look, I cannot pick Smiling Sam. I'm not going to stylistically break it down too much. Julian Marquez is going to come forward. He's going to make it a war because he always does. He never makes it easy for himself. He's going to take shots from Sam. Sam's going to catch him with the boxing. I do think he's probably going to decision. I think that's at plus money at the moment. But Julian Marquez hardly ever goes to decision. And when he does go to decision, only 2 times in his career, he's lost both times. So it's kind of hard to be backing Julian Marquez to go to decision when he never does. And when he does, he loses. But I do think, and I am predicting Julian Marquez to win this fight by decision. Sam Alvey is a very, very tough dude, so it's hard for me to see him be stopped. But Julian Marquez does stop everyone. All of his wins have been stoppages. So you always feel like a bit of a dickhead when you bet on someone to win via decision, or I do anyway. I'm speaking for myself here, but I feel like a bit of a dickhead when I bet on a fighter to win via decision and they've never won via decision before, or they've won it like 1 or 2 times, and then they go and stop the dude. You know, I did it against, I did it on Vicente Luque versus Randy Brown. I bet on Vicente Luque straight, okay, which was a good, I got him like minus 175, I think, which was a hilarious line. You know, he dominated that. But I also bet on that fight, Luque to win via decision, you know, which was a bit stupid because, I mean, he's never gone, I don't know if he's gone to decision more than once in his UFC career against Mike Perry. So I don't know why I'm betting on him to win via decision. It's kind of the same thing here. I kind of feel like pulling the trigger on Marquez via decision at plus 300, but he's never won a decision in his career. He's been to decision twice and he's lost twice. So am I really going to do that? And another factor here is Sam Alvey's moving down to middleweight. So Sam Alvey has fought a light heavyweight for the last 5-6 fights, and most of his recent career, the last 10 years, he's fought a light heavyweight. Couple of middleweight bouts sprinkled throughout that, but he's moving down to middleweight here. Will that affect his durability? A lot of times when fighters move down in weight, it does affect his durability. But he has fought a middleweight before plenty of times, and he hasn't been stopped. I think he's only been stopped there once in the UFC. That was by Derek Brunson in the first round. Marquez is not really the type of guy that blasts you out in the first round. He usually weathers the storm, picks up that pressure. I think Sam Alvey's going to be able to survive, and I'm going to predict Julian Marquez to win this decision, to win via decision. But because he's never won by decision and he's only lost by decision, maybe you look at Alvey decision. But I feel like both of them, I think both of them are like the same odds, right? And when you're getting a much bigger favorite than Marquez, yeah, Marquez like minus 200 favorite. So to have his decision line the same as Sam Alvey is kind of annoying. And I don't know if it's exactly the same, but let's just check the odds here. Over 2.5 rounds is plus 110. I don't hate that. But as I said, Marquez forces finishes. So, yeah, I don't know. Alvey wins by decision is plus 400, plus 350. Marquez wins by decision, plus 350. So it's like the same for them both to win by decision. I don't know. I'm going to predict Julian Marquez to win via decision, but yeah, I don't know, man. I wouldn't be super surprised to see Alvey pull the upset, but come on, man. I mean, he's lost his last 5 fights and what? Except for one, which he drew. So I don't know, man. He almost got finished in that 3rd round by Darton Young. So yeah, I'm not going to be putting my money behind Alvey, put it that way. Oz Tyler's saying if Alvey wrestled, I'd max bet him here, lol. But yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly. And that's one of the things I look for in tape, right? And obviously I know he doesn't wrestle, but I just wanted to see how much he does wrestle. And actually it's none. It's 0. I think he averages 0.05 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is maybe the least I've ever seen. You know, it's probably less than fucking Conor McGregor. It's not a lot. He doesn't wrestle ever, right? So, I mean, he doesn't even attempt takedowns, let alone, you know, get the takedowns. So, yeah. Marquez Patolo was a crazy fight, Brandon McDonald is saying. He's also saying Alvey could definitely win a decision here. Look, plus 350, plus 400. It's not the worst shot, is it? But I don't think you'll see me on it. But I don't disagree with you, really. I mean, Marquez always loses decisions, but, you know, that decision against DiCirico was a split decision, so he could have gone his way on another day. And I feel like this might be a spot where he either stops Alvey or he does win a decision. So the next fight, which is a very exciting fight, I can't wait for this one. We've got, I'll just say his surname, man. We got Kisrahev versus Carl Dawkis, right? And Kisrahev is 13-0. He's from Dagestan. You know, I love these Dagestani fighters. Let's just give it up for Dagestan, man. I know they get a lot of praise, but if we're being honest, they must have. I mean, it's without a doubt that Dagestan is the most talented MMA region in the world. You know, no one even comes close. It's a small region of Russia. It's not even like I'm saying the country Russia. It's one small region. They live on the mountains, for God's sake. You know, like, it's pretty crazy that they have so many high-level fighters. And this guy is another high-level fighter, in my opinion. Look, he hasn't been fighting at a high level of competition, but I do think you'll see in his fight against Carl Dawkis, someone I also rate pretty highly, that he is high level, right? And this fight is fucking close, man. And you can tell that by the odds. I think we've got Kisrahev coming in as like a minus 125 favorite. It's probably like a pick-em on some books. So it's very hard to differentiate these guys. And it's very hard to differentiate these guys on the odds, right? So Kisrahev is a takedown machine. That's what he likes to do. He's got decent striking. He'll throw some... he's a southpaw, so he'll throw some kicks from that southpaw stance, you know, that left body kick. He'll go up top with it as well. He almost knocked out Ruzimar Polejares. Most of you will know that dude. He almost knocked him out with a head kick. He was able to drop him with the head kick in the first 30 seconds of the fight, and then he ended up getting on top position and stopping him. I've seen him throw the leg kick a lot. He throws that left kick everywhere, right? Throw it to the body mainly, but he also will throw it to the head and he will throw it to the leg. He's got decent power. I've seen him stop people with liver shots. I've also seen him put people on their ass with overhands. So he definitely has power, but I don't really rate his striking that highly. It's not very technical. He doesn't set much up very well. The only thing which I really rate in his striking is that left body kick, right? He's got a very good left body kick. If we compare that with Carl Dawkis, I think Carl Dawkis is the much more technical striker on the feet. And we obviously know Carl Dawkis is brother of Chris Dawkis, who kind of made a name for himself recently by knocking out Alexei Olenek in the heavyweight division. So, you know, they'll be training together, even though they're quite a few weight classes apart. They'll obviously been training together their whole life, and they will still be training together. And they're both solid strikers, right? They got good boxing. Carl Dawkis also has a great body kick, you know, so it'll be like the battle of the body kicks, which will be quite fun to see. But I got a feeling Dawkis may not throw as many kicks in this fight just because of how big a takedown threat Kisrahev is. You know, that would be a better game plan for me, because I do think the biggest disparity in this fight in the striking is Carl Dawkis' boxing. I do think Carl Dawkis has a lot more technical and crisp boxing in Kisrahev. So in my opinion, he doesn't really need to use his kicks that much, but it is his game. And I don't think we'll see him abandon it completely, although it would be a good idea to maybe, you know, not spam it as much as he does. The thing about Carl Dawkis is he likes to spam it because he doesn't care really about being taken down. I mean, he definitely defends takedowns all the time, but he's not afraid to get taken down, because even though I kind of rate his striking, he's a very good jiu-jitsu fighter. That's his wheelhouse. He is a jiu-jitsu fighter. Most of his wins on his record come via submission. But in like the 5 or 6 fights, I went pretty deep into this fight. In the 5 or 6 fights I watched of this, he's mainly a striker. Like, he keeps it on the feet and then they shoot on him. And that's when he comes with his guillotine. That's when he comes with his patented Darce choke. He's got multiple Darce finishes, probably the most Darce finishes I've seen on anyone's record. He's got about 4 or 5 Darce chokes on his record. So he likes to pick his opponents apart on the feet because he has a lot of reach and a height advantage on most fighters he fought, as does he in this fight. And what he does is, you know, he likes to pick them apart, and if he gets taken down, then he starts to go to work, right? Obviously, he will also go for takedowns. He went for multiple takedowns in that Brendan Allen fight, and that was a great back and forth scrambly fight there. So yeah, as I said, he's got height advantage here, a pretty big height advantage, pretty massive really. He's 6'3", as opposed to Kisrahev is 5'9". So that's where you're talking a 5-inch height advantage there, and it does come with a 2-inch advantage of reach. So that's definitely significant in this fight. You know, reach, according to Fightnomics, the book by Reed Kuhn. If you've not if you've not read the book Fightnomics, definitely go and buy that. It's a good book. It says in that book, if I'm not mistaken, and I do have it here somewhere, it says in that book that height doesn't mean anything unless it comes with reach, right? So here we've got a big height advantage and we've got a 2-inch reach advantage as well. So, you know, it does mean something in this fight is basically what I'm saying. So I think, so, all right, how do these fighters break down, right? So how did a stylistic matchup break down? So I feel like Dawkis is going to be the one winning minutes on the feet. He needs to be careful, as I've already mentioned, to not spam multiple kicks, because I think he will get taken down off them kicks. Kisrahev is going to be getting caught with that boxing, because I believe Carl Dawkis' boxing is a level above Kisraev's. Now, I do give Kisrahev the power advantage, and I give him the power advantage by quite a big margin, right? So I give Dawkis the technical boxing advantage and probably just the technical striking advantage as well. He does love that push kick up the middle. But I do give Kisrahev the same amount of margin, like the same amount of better margin. Sorry for my English. I'm English, but I'm not using it well. I do give each fighter a significant edge in those aspects. So Dawkis has the technical striking advantage, but Kisrahev has the power advantage. And they both have quite a significant advantage on each other in them aspects of the fight. So if Kisrahev is able to land them hooks that he loves to throw, they're going to hurt Dawkis, right? Because Dawkis is a tall guy. He may be leaning back, trying to get out the way. And if Kisrahev can come over the top or even hit that body, because the body shot's going to be open for Kisrahev, in my opinion, he could really hurt Carl Dawkis, because I have seen Kisrahev get liver shot stoppages before, as I've told you, and his pressure is pretty solid, right? He presses you up against the cage, unloads, and then goes for takedowns. I think Carl Dawkis needs to be on his bike in this fight, which he's pretty good at. He does like getting on his bike. And he needs to avoid the grappling. I do believe he's got the jiu-jitsu advantage, but he's coming up against a Dagestani grinder wrestler. So the jiu-jitsu kind of probably cancels itself out here. Now, look, can he catch him in a triangle choke? Can he catch him in a dash choke? Of course. This is an MMA fight. He's very high level. But I'm definitely going to give Kisrahev the grappling advantage, the overall grappling advantage, because his wrestling is 10 times better than Carl Dawkis is. He's from Dagestan. And I've seen it on tape. And in his jiu-jitsu, is not really a patented jiu-jitsu game, but, you know, he's dominant from top position. He'll get that Dagestani handcuff. He'll put his legs over your legs. He'll wrap up both legs. He'll throw like heavy ground and pound. Kisrahev has a lot of ground and pound, right? So this fight is so interesting to me, man, because it really comes down to whether Kisrahev can get this fight to the ground. And I do think he can, but I do also think Carl Dawkis can probably sweep him maybe a couple of times and possibly get back to his feet. You know, Kisrahev could come out there and kind of like, because we don't know how good Kisrahev is, right? So he could come out there and take Carl Dawkis down and kind of dominate him on the ground, right? But I've never seen Dawkis dominated on the ground before. Now, against Brendan Allen, that was a scrappy back and forth fight, and Brendan Allen definitely landing some heavy elbows in that fight. And that's what's kind of making me lean Kisrahev here, because if Brendan Allen was able to get off them elbows, I do think Kisrahev will be able to get off some heavy ground and pound. And I've seen him hurt guys with ground and pound from top position, man. But Carl Dawkis has definitely got the path to victory there as well, man, which is staying on his bike, picking Kisrahev apart on the feet. And Carl Dawkis has very good takedown defense. When Dustin Stolfus shot 10 takedowns on him, he only got one. He fought Lombardo in his Dana White Contender Series fight. Lombardo shot 8 takedowns, could only get one. Brendan Allen didn't get a takedown on him. I don't think he attempted to take down Brendan, but because Dawkis was attempting the takedowns in that fight. But Dawkis has very high-level takedown defense, right? But the thing is, he's coming up against Kisrahev, man. It's like if a fighter has high-level takedown defense, but they're coming up against Islam Makhachev or Khabib, how much can you really take from it? You know, Carl Dawkis has 94% takedown defense, but I don't think you can say, like, he's got 94% takedown defense, he's going to be able to defend takedowns, because I really think Kisrahev is a relentless takedown guy, man. And one thing I will say is that Kisraev's best takedown, from what I've seen on tape, is the single leg, right? He either grabs you by the single leg and picks it up and pummels you over, or he'll take the single leg, he'll drag it like an arm drag and drag you to the ground, or he'll take the single leg and he will trip you with the other leg. So he's got multiple ways of taking you down with a single leg. He obviously shoots body lock takedowns as well, and chain wrestling takedowns, but he does like that single leg. And one thing I will say is that Carl Dawkis has very high level single leg takedown defense. So I've seen Dawkis get taken down a couple of times on the regional scene. And I went in depth on this fight because I wanted to see Dawkis's takedown defense in different scenarios, right? Because we saw it be very good in the UFC in his 2 fights against Lombardo and against Stoltzfus, you know, but they're not, from what I've seen, they're not high-level takedown guys. They're not Kisraevs, right? But what I've seen is Carl Dawkis has very good balance. So if you get one leg off the ground, he's probably going to be able to defend it. But where he gets taken down is if the fighters can muscle him. So I've seen him get taken down from body lock takedowns, and I've seen him get taken down from, like, not exactly this, but they were kind of like judo. They were kind of like Greco-Roman throws, where the body lock is there and he kind of gets suplexed. But he's still got good balance there. He's still, because he's so long, he's able to put one limb out and he kind of stops himself from being taken down. But the takedown's definitely there. But the way Kisrahev likes to get the takedowns, that's what Dawkis is good at defending, or that's his best takedown defense. So it's a very interesting fight for me. I'm going to lean Kisrahev because I do think he can be a pretty good fighter. It's hard. I don't want to say that because, like, I really feel like Dawkis has kind of got a style to beat Kisrahev, but I just don't think Dawkis has faced anyone with the takedowns of Kisrahev, man. That's really what it comes down to, you know. If we go on Kisrahev's record here, he's got a 13-0 record, so he's never done anything to make me doubt him, right? And in all the fights I've seen on him, he's basically dominated the fights, guys, you know, but he hasn't been fighting high-level competition, so it's really hard for me to see, you know, it's hard for me to say something bad about Kisrahev because he's 13-0, you know. I haven't seen many holes in his game. Most of his fights are ending quickly, but he has been to decision multiple times, as you see. His last decision fight was against Yasube Enomoto, a 16-9 fighter at Fight Night Global 74. He went to decision there, but he dominated the fight. He constantly dominated that fight. I mean, he was never really in trouble. There was a moment where Enomoto, or there was a couple of moments throughout the fight where Enomoto was getting that boxing offense going, and he was able to piece Kisrahev up for a couple of combinations, right? It wasn't long, but I guess you can call that a little bit of a weak spot in his game, the boxing, which I definitely give Carl Dawkis a high level advantage there, or a big advantage, like I've already said. But if you can, you know, let's go on his record. I mean, the fighters he's fighting are not very good, guys. His last 4 fights, right? They've been against 13-3. That's decent. 19-8. It's all right. There's Paul Harris there. He's on the end of his career. To be fair, Yasubi Enomoto was 16-9, 11-6. But before that, right, he's fighting 3-2, 2-1, 3-1, 0-0, 3-2, 0-0, 5-5. Obviously, that's, you know, more the start of his career. But what I'm saying is the experience advantage is drastically in the favor of Carl Dawkis. You know, Carl Dawkis is fought in the UFC multiple times now. He's fought in the Contender Series. He's fought against Brendan Allen, who was a tough fight in his first fight. Big underdog there, plus 250 underdog. Then he fought Dustin Stolfus, who was a 10-1 fighter at the time, or 10-0 or something. I believe he might have been 10-0. So Carl Dawkis has been fighting better guys. He's better. He's got more experience in the UFC. But I do like Kisrahev's game, and I am actually going to pick Kisrahev here because I just don't think Carl Dawkis has fought someone who will give him as much trouble in the takedown department as Kisrahev will give him. Dawkis is not going to go down without a fight. This is going to be a back-and-forth fight, in my opinion. Both fighters are going to have their way, and I wouldn't be surprised with Carl Dawkis coming out of the win whatsoever. But at the end of the day, this is a prediction podcast, and I have to give a prediction. I won't be betting on this fight unless I find some juicy props. And we'll just check the props real quickly before I go on to the next fight, which is the co-main event of the evening. But yeah, I probably won't be betting on this fight. I did look at the over because I do think it's probably going to decision. But at the end of the day, man, Kisrahev is a finisher. You know, he doesn't go to decision often. And Carl Dawkis is a finisher. He doesn't go to decision often either. And if you're only giving me, you know, minus 150 for the fight to go to decision, it's hard for me to get behind it, man. I'd like some plus money, you know. Even though it's taken the under at plus 150, I don't even super hate. But I do think this fight's going to go to decision. And I do think Kisrahev probably going to edge it here. But as I say, super close fight. Final prediction, guys, is Kisrahev to win a close decision, 29-28. But again, I wouldn't be surprised to see Kisrahev come out and kind of just mollywop Dawkis on the ground, because I don't know yet. I can't tell because of the level of fighters he's fought and because a lot of the fights are getting ended early. But I do think that Kisrahev could be something special just in regards to his game. Not necessarily his skill set so well-rounded, but just that takedown, that constant takedown pressure. It's hard to deal with. And I've seen him go hard 3 rounds and still, you know, and look completely fine in that 3rd round. So I do think we could have a solid prospect on our hands with the Black Wolf, a 13-0 fighter. But I could also see Carl Dawkis winning this fight. So I don't have a great read on it. I think it's hard with the level of competition that the Black Wolf has been fighting at. But yeah, final prediction. I won't go on any more about this fight. Kisrahev to win via decision. And the next fight is a big. This is a great fight, man. I can't wait for this fight. Probably the fight I'm looking forward to most on the card. You know, but I am looking forward to that Kisrahev fight as well because I really want to see how he does against someone like Dawkis. Brandon saying Dawkis got all those dash choke finishes. I know it's pretty crazy. Brandon McDonald likes Dawkis for a bet here. His UFC experience should help a ton too. Exactly, you know, and that's what I mentioned at the end there. Like, the UFC experience is definitely something to take into account. So here we go. We've got Arnold Allen versus Sadiq Youssef. This fight is a banger, man. 16-1 for Arnold and Allen, 11-1 for Sadiq Youssef. This is a banger of a fight, man. I mean, any fight Sadiq Youssef is in a banger, right? He comes forward looking to destroy you. They call Usman a Nigerian nightmare, but Youssef is kind of a nightmare, and he's not kind of Nigerian. He is fully Nigerian. I mean, they could call this guy the Nigerian kind of nightmare, you know? I don't think he's as much of a nightmare as Usman to fight, but he's definitely a nightmare. I mean, he's in your face. He's throwing huge shots. I mean, he's got very short hooks, but they land with so much power. He's an explosive dude. He seems to be able to go a decent 3 rounds. He does definitely slow down, but he can still, you know, he can still go 3 rounds. He's won a couple of decisions on his record against good fighters, Andre Fili, namely. So, yeah, he's a great fighter, man. And he's coming up against another great fighter, right? The contrast in styles are pretty interesting here because Sadiq Youssef will press you against the cage and he'll try and get you out of there ASAP, man. He goes pretty crazy in that first round. He really wants to put the beating on you, you know? Just watch that Gabriel Benitez fight. He comes out like an animal and he ends up getting Gabriel Benitez out there in the first round, which is not easy to do, man. You have to respect Youssef for that. He did get hurt in that fight. He got dropped momentarily to 1 knee, if I remember rightly. But, you know, he was able to weather the storm. And, I mean, he didn't really weather the storm. He just got touched once. He was the one bringing the storm, and Benitez wasn't able to weather the storm. He got knocked out in the first round. But the contrast to styles I was mentioning is because Arnold Allen is a very slick boxer. He's an outside range fighter. He'll throw that teep up the middle. You know, he'll like to stick to the outside, and he goes to decision. So he fights out of TriStar. So he's a very well-schooled TriStar fighter. He's got a great jab, one of the best jabs in the division, in my opinion. He's got a very, very good jab, man. His jab is very high level. I mean, I love his jab. I've said jab about 4 times, but I really do like Arnold Allen's jab. And that could be some trouble for Sadiq here because Sadiq likes to get in your face, as I've said. So if that jab is just constantly coming out and he can't get in Allen's face, that might spell some trouble for him here, right? So this is a fight of 2 prospects, both tipped to do some damage at the top of the division, right? And I think whoever wins this fight is probably going to fight for a title at one point. And to be honest, both of them may fight for a title at one point. I will say that Sadiq has the power advantage, and I will also say that he has the experience advantage in regards to fighting a better level of competition. So Sadiq's been in there with guys like, as I mentioned, Andre Fili. You know, he's been in there with guys like Gabriel Benitez, Mowgli. Whereas Arnold Allen, I believe his best win is probably Nick Lentz, you know, and at that point in his career, it's kind of more of a weathered Nick Lentz. You know, Nick Lentz is a little bit older at this point, you know, when they fought. Sadiq's been fighting young guys, or not young guys, but guys that are at least younger than Nick Lentz and just higher level than Nick Lentz, in my opinion. Let's bring up Sadiq's record here, right? So Sadiq has fought Andre Fili, Gabriel Benitez, Shaman Moraes, Mokhtarian. He fought Mike Davis, who's a very good fighter, on his Dana White's Contender Series fight, and that was an absolute banger, man. That fight was back and forth, but clear win for Sadiq, as far as I can remember. And then if we just bring up Arnold Allen's record, you know, his level of competition isn't the same, right? But he does have some more fights. So he fought Gilbert Melendez, but that was in 2019, and you know, Gilbert at that point is like, you know, it's not the best. He's fought Nick Lentz, you know, and again, that was 2020 Nick Lentz. It's, you know, Nick Lentz, a good veteran, and he did well in that fight, Nick Lentz, to be honest. He was there, but it was kind of a clear win. It was definitely a clear win for Arnold, but he was still there the whole fight. You know, but 2020 Nick Lentz, it's not like, you know, Nick Lentz had 40 fights by that point. So it was good to get a win over a veteran, but it's not the level of Andre Fili or someone like a young guy who's, you know, still got aspirations to be at the top of the division. But I will say that if you go back in his career, he fought Mads Barnell, who's a good fighter, Cage Warriors former champion. He was in the UFC, and I don't think he should have been cut from the UFC, Mads Burnell, sorry, he's a good fighter. And then obviously Makwan Amekani, you know, he's a good fighter as well. Consistent grinder, so it's definitely good to get a win over him. Split decision win there. And as you can see, he's been in the UFC for a long time. They're building him up slowly. He's been in the UFC for 6 years now, man. Since 2015, since June of 2015. So they're building him up slowly, slowly, slowly. And he's turning into a very, very good fighter. Now, the way I see this fight breaking down is that I feel like Sadiq's going to do what he always does. You know, he's not going to change his game plan here. And neither is Arnold Allen. They're not going to need to, because both of their game plans are suited for each other. In the fact that if you're going to fight Arnold Allen, you're probably going to have to pressure him, right? I mean, maybe you could play the outside range game, but he loves that. He's very good at that. But he is kind of a counter striker. So maybe if you did play that game with him, it'll be interesting to see how he reacts, like, right? Like, this is just a random thought here, but you know, someone like Wonderboy, right? You would think that you shouldn't play the outside range game with Wonderboy. And I agree with that, unless you are good enough to use that, like Darren Till was, right? Darren Till can play the outside range game, and he didn't rush in on Wonderboy. And for that reason, he ended up winning the fight against Wonderboy, right? But you have to be good enough to play that game. So unless you're good enough to play the outside game with Arnold Allen, you may win that game if you're good enough, because Arnold Allen won't be used to it. But if you're not good enough, then you probably shouldn't play that game. And I don't think Sadiq's good enough to outpoint Arnold Allen on the outside. So Sadiq's going to have to pressure Arnold Allen. And on the same regard, is Arnold Allen's he's not good enough to just pressure Sadiq and meet him middle by middle. You know, so he's going to have to play the outside range game, which is what he likes to do anyway. So what I mean is, both of these fighters, what they like to do is what they should do in this fight, right? So for that reason, it's going to be a very good fight, because we're going to see both fighters maximize the way they like to fight, right? So that's going to bring out the best of them. So we should see the best of either side in this fight. Now, how I actually see it going, it's very hard. It's another one. It's another fight like I saw. So it's another fight like I just broken down with Kisrahev and Carl Dawkis, right? I feel like it's a close fight. It's very hard for me to pick a winner. This was a similar fight to the Jackson and Gracie fight last weekend at Bellator 255, right? I writ down on my notes that if anyone gets to like plus 125, I'll bet them. Look, just being completely honest with you, I want to bet Arnold Allen in this fight, right? I do kind of lean Arnold Allen here. I probably cap him at about a minus 125, right? I don't know, man. It's hard. It's 50-50, but I want to push Arnold Allen slightly. You know, I want to say Arnold Allen has like a 52% chance of winning this fight, right? I want to give him a couple percent more than Sadiq Youssef. And the reason I'm giving that, right? Obviously, breaking down the fight as a whole, I will do that. But the reason I give Arnold Allen a couple percent more than 50-50, it's basically 50-50. But maybe the reason I give him a couple percent more is because we've seen Sadiq struggle with southpaws before, right? Arnold Allen would actually switch stances, but Arnold Allen is a southpaw. So we've seen Sadiq struggle against Andre Fili in that third round when Andre Fili turned southpaw. And we've also seen him struggle a little bit with Mowgli. And if I'm not mistaken, Mowgli is a southpaw. As I say, my memory is terrible. And, you know, I watch hundreds of fights every 2 weeks. So hundreds of fights a month. So, like, all of the fights blend into one after a while. And I actually watched this fight a long time ago because I saw the line so close. And I actually, you know, as I told you earlier in the stream, when I see lines close, I kind of like to get a bit of an edge. But more often than not, when I see the lines close, after I do tape, I agree with the lines being close, right? Otherwise, the lines wouldn't have been close. So most of these lines that you see close, they're close for a reason, right? I'm never usually shocked at the lines being close after I've done the tape. I'm usually shocked at fighters being huge underdogs or huge favorites, but I'm never usually shocked at the lines being close, right? But I still like to tape them because you don't need much of an edge if the lines are already close, if you understand what I mean. But anyway, I taped this fight about a week ago, right? And I came away thinking that Sadiq obviously has the power advantage, and we haven't seen Arnold Allen in a fight with a fighter like Sadiq, who is going to pressure you, who is going to aim to land bombs, and who has been in with high-level fighters like Andre Fili and Gabriel Benitez and Mike Davis, right? So there's a lot on Sadiq's side here. But at the same time, just stylistically watching Arnold Allen, he's a beautiful fighter. The way he jabs is so good, man. The way he sticks on the outside, you know, he's very clever. His IQ is high level. I don't know how he's going to deal with someone like Sadiq putting heavy pressure on him and landing hard shots, man. I don't know how he's going to deal with that. It's very hard to predict how he's going to deal with that, right? It's not easy to say how he's going to deal with that. Whereas Sadiq, he has kind of fought fighters at least a bit similar to Arnold Allen. As I said, you know, he has had trouble with southpaws, but he did experience that against Mowgli. And he did, if Mowgli's a southpaw, I might be getting that one wrong. I think he is. And he did experience that in the third round against Feely, although he did kind of get pieced up in that round. But, you know, he's fought them strikers who kind of like to stick on the outside or have the ability to stick on the outside and pick you apart, like Feely and like Benitez. Whereas Arnold Allen, I don't think he's really ever fought anyone like Sadiq who will just pressure you and land bombs. And he's definitely not fought anyone as powerful as Sadiq. And as I've already mentioned, Sadiq's got the experience advantage of high-level fighters. So that's a lot on Sadiq's side, but I'm leaning Arnold Allen 1 to 2%. This is a 50-50 fight, basically, is what I'm saying, guys. But Arnold Allen's at plus money at the moment. If he continues to rise, which I'm hoping he will, because I kind of feel like I know Sadiq's a much bigger name than Arnold Allen. So I do feel like Sadiq will be being bet down. And the last I checked, I think he did start to get bet down like yesterday. As I said, I take this fight a week ago, and Arnold was like plus 110, plus 100 on some books. At the moment, yeah, he's still plus 110, but Sadiq's like minus 130 now. When I looked, Sadiq was like minus 120, minus 110. So if we just check on best fight odds, we can check the graph where it's been moved. Yeah, so you can see open a minus 120, got bet down to minus 175. I don't understand this, right? So Arnold Allen was like plus 150 probably for like 4 days. I mean, that's pretty crazy, right? I wish I jumped on it then. But yeah, when I looked, it was probably like here at minus, I don't know. I remember seeing him at like minus 120. I mean, the line's not really, I mean, the line is a mean line, right? So maybe I was just looking at my bookie, but he started to get bet down March 31st, April the 1st, which was like, what, 4 or 5 days ago. He went down to like a minus 140. Then he came up to minus 130. Now, literally, in the last 1 day, he's gone from a minus 130 to a minus 140 mean odds. So I'm hoping that trend continues and we see him get down to that minus 150, minus 160 range. They give me plus 125 on Arnold Allen, and I pull the trigger. Yeah, this fight going to decision? Most likely. It looks like they're tough guys, but as I said, we've never really seen Arnold Allen being pressured and hit by big shots by someone who is a physical specimen and a good athlete like Sadiq. So I don't know how he's going to react to that. Sadiq does get quite a few finishes, so we could see that if he doesn't weather the storm. I do think he's going to be able to. Fight goes to decision minus 175. It's not great, right? In a featherweight fight where fighters are going to be clashing. Now, Sadiq's probably going to be the one getting a stoppage if he's going to stop. If anyone's going to get stoppage. But I will say that I'm not sold on Sadiq's chin. That's another angle to this fight. And I'll finish with this closing statement that I do think Sadiq has a little bit of a questionable chin. I'm not saying he's got a terrible chin. He gets knocked out. He's never been knocked out. But has he been knocked out? What was that one loss? I can't remember. But yeah, his chin, it's not great. I've seen him dropped more than once. I've seen him dropped by Benitez, and I've seen him hurt. He looks a little bit wobbled. He looks a bit stumbled when he gets hit. So it'll be interesting to see the slick southpawness of Arnold Allen catch him, because he will catch him, make no mistake about it. It will be cool to see how he is able to weather that, or how he deals with that, right? So Sadiq actually has been stopped before, but it was via slam and punches. I'd have to go back and watch that fight, because, I mean, if he got slammed down, he could have probably just out from the slam. Some of you guys in the chat might actually remember exactly how that went down. I don't remember that. But, yeah, look, he's been stopped before. He has been stopped, whether it was by a slam or not. He has been stopped. So, yeah, I'm not super sold on his chin. I'm not saying it's a terrible chin, but I'm not super sold on it. But, yeah, I'm going to say it's a 50-50 fight. Maybe I'm going to lean Allen 2 or 3%, right? I'm going to say Allen has a 52% chance of winning the fight. So my prediction is Arnold Allen to win this fight via decision. But it's a close fight, man. It's a really close fight. Adds the odds suggest. And now we're on to the big one. I mean, I guess it's the big one. It's the main event, right? I'll just catch up with the chat real quickly. Danny Lags is saying, same as you, James. He's picking Kiz, but not betting unless he hits plus money. Yeah. Exactly. I really feel like Kisrahev could be a very good prospect, but he's going to have to show me it, right? He's going to have to show me it against Carl Dawkis. Now, if he gets that plus money, then he probably won't have to show me it. I'll probably take the plunge like you. But I think I saw this was like minus 110 last week, if I'm not mistaken. And now Kisrahev's like minus 125 on some books. So it seems like he's getting bet down. So I don't think we're going to see that plus money. But you know, who knows? Oz Tyler saying got great leg kicks. Arnold Allen, Sadiq Youssef, one of them's got great leg kicks. Shawnee Mac, what's up, man? Thanks for being here. B Anon is saying, what bookie do you use in New Zealand? So I have multiple bookies. I use 5 Dimes as my main bookie because they have lots of openers. Obviously, I have a service here, handicapping service, so I have multiple members. I never tip any lines that aren't stable. So if I do tip a line from 5 Dimes, it's a stable line. I only tip the lines and I only track the lines on my betmma.tips and my track record that are stable. But me personally, I jump on a lot of opening lines from 5 Dimes. So actually, if I did track my opening lines like most people do who don't have a handicapping service, my record would be quite a bit better because over the year, if you're jumping on opening lines, you're getting quite, you know, you're getting a lot better value. Obviously, I've got a handicapping service. I can't do that. I know probably some people do, but you know, it's not right to do that. So I don't. But yeah, bro, to answer your question, I use 5 Dimes. I use Bet365 and I use William Hill. And sometimes I use the exchange, Betfair Exchange. So they're my main books. I do have other books. I use Sport Bet as well. They're not bad. I do use the TAB as well. So I have multiple books, right? You have to have multiple books because, yeah, that's another story for another day. But they're the main bets. They're the main bookies I use. And the main ones are really Bet365 and 5 Dimes. But I definitely do use Sports Bet and the exchange and TAB also. Manuel Galaza is saying that Arnold Allen has an edge in conditioning. He does. I agree. And he is the busier fighter. Yep. I see Allen overwhelming him with activity and wearing him out. A finish by Allen wouldn't shock me. Yeah, man, it wouldn't shock me either. As I said, I'm predicting the decision because Allen is a decision fighter. But yeah, I did mention Sadiq's chin isn't. I think the jury's still out a little bit on his chin. So yeah, it wouldn't shock me. But I don't think that. Yeah, I mean, he might. I don't think he's necessarily going to overwhelm him. I guess it depends what you mean by overwhelm. I think probably what you mean is that he's just going to be landing a lot and Sadiq probably going to end up withering, right? Which could happen. I think Sadiq's going to be the one trying to do the overwhelming, though, just constant forward pressure and, you know, throwing huge shots because that's what Sadiq does. You know, Arnold doesn't fight like that. But I get what you mean. Probably you just mean just the volume is going to overwhelm him in the end. It might do. Brandon McDonald is saying the English bias with Allen. Man, probably, you know, probably. I do think that I do have some English bias, man, which is not good, right? And I'm trying to work on it, right? And I'm being transparent with saying that right now. Look, in this specific matchup, I believe everything I said is true. And I probably do cap it 50-50. And probably because I'm English, I give him 2% more, right? Because he's English. Like, maybe that's where the 2% comes from. Maybe it doesn't come from his southpaw stance, right? But yeah, I do have a little bit of a bias, I feel like. But when it comes to betting, I think I'm very good at moving that bias to the side. If I'm predicting a fight, I probably am going to be biased. But actually betting, put my money on it, tipping it to members, I don't think I'm biased. I mean, I can't be, right? So I try to go anti-bias. Sometimes I go against it because I'm really trying to not be biased. But anyway, Brandon McDonald is saying such a good fight. Yes. Shawnee SRT, thanks for watching the stream, is saying Vittori in all capital letters. I guess he thinks Vittori's going to win. And cat's out of the bag. I think Vittori's going to win as well. So Marvin Vettori versus Kevin Holland. Marvin Vettori is coming in looking to prove a point, as he seems like he does in every single fight. He always wants to prove a point. He always seems angry. And I don't blame him, man. Let's just look over Marvin Vettori, the Italian Dream's record, because his record is littered with cancellations, right? And that's probably why he's so angry, because he always tries to perform and his fights always get cancelled. The reason we're getting this fight is because his previous fight, the one who was scheduled just 5 days ago, this fight was scheduled, it got cancelled. Darren Till had to pull out because he broke his collarbone in training. Luckily, he's still getting a fight. He's going to fight Kevin Holland. But look, if we just look at his record here, he gets a fight cancelled against Andrew Sanchez, right? And then he fights Andrew Sanchez, who wins by a unanimous decision. Then 4 months later, he's meant to fight Darren Stewart. That fight gets cancelled, right? So they reschedule him to a month later against Carl Roberson. That fight gets cancelled. Then they reschedule that Carl Roberson fight to another month later, and that fight gets cancelled. Robertson withdraws due to illness, and I think that was like on the day of the fight, or the day of the weigh-in, right? And then that's when he went kind of viral on MMA Twitter when he, kind of called out Carl Robertson, and they had that little scuffle in the hallway. Not scuffle in regards to physical, but they was, shouting at each other. And then, he ends up fighting Carl Robertson. He finishes in round 1, which was a good look because it showed that even though some emotions might be high for Vittori, he was still able to go out there and do the job, and he did the job, and he did it in round 1. Then he fought Jack Hermansson, which he showed another aspect to his game, which was going 5 rounds against someone with good gas tank. He was able to stop all the takedowns, and I actually bet Marvin Vettori there, minus 135, I got him or something like that, and that cashed with ease. He won 4 rounds to 1 there. And after that, he's had 3 fights, and they've all been cancelled in a row again. So, I mean, this dude, he hasn't got very good luck. But he's getting lucky here in the fact that at least he's still going to get a paycheck, right? He's fighting Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland saves the day once again. Cool big mouth. He steps up to the plate, and he's fighting someone who has a style tailor-made to beat him, in my opinion. I mean, it's not just my opinion. It's probably the whole world's opinion. I do not know who will be betting Kevin Holland here. If you're betting Kevin Holland, please show yourself in the chat. I'm not saying that to call you out, but I really want to see your rationale, because we've seen Kevin Holland be dominated on the ground multiple times, and he's going against Marvin Vettori, who's got good takedowns, right? He's not this out-and-out wrestler. He's definitely an MMA fighter. But against someone like Kevin Holland, I don't think he's going to be out. He's going to have trouble bringing this fight to the ground. So I'm going to make this breakdown really quick, guys. Obviously, Kevin Holland has the advantage in the stand-up. I don't think it's, such a drastic advantage, but he's definitely got the advantage there. He's got a laser precisional right hand, so he's always live to catch Marvin Vettori or something. Even though he got dominated by Derek Brunson, he did have Derek Brunson on skates for a little bit in that fight. I believe it was in the second round. He got to his feet. He hit Derek Brunson with a good shot, and Derek Brunson was a little bit wobbly. The thing about Derek Brunson and Marvin Vettori, the difference I should say, is that Marvin Vettori has a beard, right? And that means he's got a solid chin. Derek Brunson's known to get knocked out multiple times, and they've all come in the first round. So he gets starched a lot. Marvin Vettori, he's got a fucking solid chin. He's never been stopped before. I'm pretty sure about saying that. Let's go on his record there. He's only lost 3 fights, right? He lost once against Israel Adesanya, a split decision, which was a clear loss, I believe, but he still took it to a split decision. He lost against Antonio Carlos Jr., close fight, and he lost against Bill Beaumont, right? He wasn't stopped in any of them fights. It doesn't say on Tapology whether he got stopped by Bill Beaumont. I doubt it, just because he's got such a good chin and he hasn't been stopped since then, even by Israel, but maybe you do want to check that. But anyway, what we know is that he's got a very solid chin. So Kevin Holland is fighting a guy with very good chin and a very good wrestler, and a guy with 5-round cardio. So I can't pick Kevin Holland here, And I said a minute ago, anyone in the chat, if you're picking Kevin Holland, let me know why. And no one's commented in the chat. That means no one's betting on Kevin Holland, right? Kevin Holland's, I don't see him winning this fight, but Kevin Holland's one of them dudes where, everyone will count him out for this fight, right? He's a pretty big underdog, and somehow he'll win this fight, right? That's the type of guy he is, right? But we can't bet. We can't put our money in positions because we think that's the type of guy he is, right? At the end of the day, we have to go on the stylistic matchup of the fight. And the stylistic matchup of the fight is Marvin Vettori is going to put that jab in his face. He's going to put a lot of pressure in his face. He may get hit a couple of times, but he's going to quickly take Kevin Holland to the ground, and he's going to smother him on the ground, and he should be able to win a decision here. Maybe he even gets the fight done before the 5-round finishes. But I will say that Kevin Holland is a very tough guy, and although he got taken down 5 times, in 5 rounds, he got taken down for all 5 rounds by Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson was never close to stopping that fight, and he's only been stopped once, and that was by Brendan Allen, who's a very good opportunist submission threat, and he did get he got choked out, right? So I feel like Vittori should be able to do the same, do the same game plan. Now, I will say Vittori is probably not as good wrestler as Derek Brunson, but I still feel like he should be able to get the takedowns enough to win this fight, right? I don't maybe have too much to say other than that. I don't have much want to bet this fight. because Vittori's such a big favorite now. I don't think there's too much, too much value on the line. If we just go on best fight odds now, before we wrap this up. Yeah, so Marvin Vettori is like a -330 favorite. I mean, look, I don't know. It's probably about right, isn't it? Maybe you can make him -350 just from what we've seen recently. But yeah, man, I'm going to pick Marvin Vettori, and I'm going to pick him by decision just because I just feel like Kevin Holland has, I do feel like he's very good defensively, that he doesn't really get stopped. So that's what I'm going to pick. That's my prediction. It's not an in-depth pick, but I mean, it's pretty rudimentary, this fight. Kevin Holland to win via decision. Whoa. No. Marvin Vettori to win via decision. That's my prediction. Oz Tyler saying he hit the opener on Vittori -188. That's what I'm talking about, openers, man. If I tracked my openers, my record would be even better than it is. My record would be on a madness because I can jump on Vittori at -188. I don't have to tip him. I don't have to track him at -300. You know what I mean? It's a huge difference. Shout out to you. And look, I still get the money in my bank, right? I still jump on openers, but I just don't track them. But yeah, shout out to you for jumping on -188 because that's a solid line. I mean, there's so much value in that line. Brandon McDonald saying, do you think people are underestimating Holland due to his last fight? Probably, man. That's a good point you bring up, right? Recency bias in MMA. But the thing is, it's not like recency bias to something that hasn't happened multiple times, right? So this is recent. So the recency bias is that, Brunson was able to take him down with ease. But he's always been able to be taken down with ease, right? So although, yeah, there's recency bias, it's backed up by non-recency, right? Do you know what I mean? So sometimes the recency bias that is a little bit out of hand is like something that hasn't happened often or doesn't happen a lot, right? Sometimes that is the recency bias you need to worry about a bit more than the recency bias that has happened multiple times throughout Kevin Holland's career and just so happened to happen in his last fight as well. But I 100% understand what you're saying. That is a big thing in MMA and it doesn't influence the lines. And you're probably right. But I still don't think it affects the fact that he just really can't stuff a takedown. Brandon McDonald is saying he doesn't think Holland wins, but that man is a dog. He is, man, and he'll be there to the final bell, right? He definitely will. But you got to think that his KO power kind of wanes after 1 or 2 rounds. And, Marvin Vettori, he's never been stopped, man. He's a tough motherfucker. So you really think Kevin Holland's going to be able to stop him? Possibly. Is he going to be able to win a decision? Very unlikely. I mean, very, very highly unlikely, isn't it? So, yeah, he's definitely a dog, though, man. You're right. Manuel Galaza is saying that the only path to victory for Holland is a KO. Holland doesn't have KO power and Vittori has a chin. It appears impossible for Holland to win. Maybe Holland can talk Vittori to death. Yeah, look, maybe Marvin can talk him to death, man, because Marvin don't shut up either, I mean, at least pre-fight. So I don't think he's going to worry about that. That won't take him off his game. You're saying Holland doesn't have KO power. I mean, Holland has power, bro. Like, come on. I know, look, Holland knocked out Joaquin Buckley. I mean, you can say whatever about his chin. He hurt Brunson in the last fight. You can say whatever about his chin. He knocked out Jacare from bottom position. You can say whatever about his chin. He knocked out Fluffy Hernandez. You can say whatever about the level of competition. I think you have to give a little bit more credence to Kevin Holland's KO power. Now, do I think he's got that, one-punch KO power, Yoel Romero, Tyron Woodley? No, but what I do think he has is precision and accuracy. And a lot of times that can beat KO power. So I definitely think he can knock Marvin Vettori out, right? But as you say, Vittori definitely has a chin, so I don't think it's likely. And, that's my prediction. He's not going to knock him out. My prediction is Marvin Vettori is going to get the decision. But, yeah, I kind of agree with what you're saying, but I don't think that Holland KO is just completely out of the question. And I do think, I guess I give a bit more credence to Holland's ability to finish fight than you do. But I will say that he is mainly a decision fighter. There we go, guys. That's the whole breakdown. 1 hour, 30 minutes, went through all 6 fights. I think it was a decent breakdown today. We had a good turnout today, 22 people in the live. It peaked at like 25. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Thanks, everyone, for jumping in the chat as well. I do this every week, guys. So anyone in the chat now, come back next week, man. It's been interesting talking to you, hearing your thoughts. It makes me think about stuff as well. especially Brandon McDonald's saying like, do you think people are underestimating Holland due to his last fight? Something I didn't really think of. So yeah, man, thanks for being in the chat. Really appreciate it. I'll be back next week for another main card breakdown. And if you don't know, I have a podcast, the Lucrative MMA Betting podcast, which I release every week. I will be releasing that maybe in 1 or 2 days. I still have a couple of fights to take for this whole card, and then I'll be releasing it. So thanks everyone again for tuning in. If you did want to sign up for a membership package, we're 20 units in profit this year. We're going to continue it. We won 60 units last year, 98 units the year before. So consistent long-term winner. Lucrativemmabetting.com to get packages. And yeah, I'll be back soon. Just going to finish up with a chat. If anyone wants to hit me up before I go, say something. James Beck is saying, why don't I track openers? The reason I don't track openers is because I have a handicapping service, right? So I have members who follow me on my bets, and I don't tip them openers because most of them can't bet it, right? So I can't track that. Well, I mean, I can, but I just feel like morally it's wrong, right? If I'm tracking openers that most of my members who I'm tipping to can't back the same bets, then my record's going to be better than it is for the members that follow me, if you understand, right? That's a bit of a long-winded way, but I hope I explained it well. So although I jump on the openers, personally, if I had a personal record, I would track it. But, for the people who can't get on it and for the people potentially wanting to sign up and earn money with me, I just want them to see the exact lines that they would get. And some of them can get the openers, right? If you can get openers, then jump on. There'll be, you'll get even better lines, but a lot of them can't get openers. So that's just the reason I don't track it. I just feel like morally it's wrong. Manuel is saying, great breakdown. Have a good evening, day, afternoon. Yeah, all of them. For me, it's probably what's the time? For me, it's 2 p.m. now. So yeah, I'll be having a good afternoon and a good evening. Wherever you are too, have a good evening, afternoon, night, day. Thanks for being in the stream. I've enjoyed chatting to you today. And Brandon McDonald, thanks, man. So peace out, everybody. I'll be back in a couple of days with the Lucrative MMA Betting podcast. You can catch that on Spotify and all the other good places. Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. Subscribe to me. Give me a 5-star rating if you can. That will help loads. I don't even know if I'm eligible for ratings, but if so, help a brother out, man, because I know that helps a lot. And like this video and subscribe because it also helps. So thanks, everyone, for watching, and I'll be back in a couple of days.